Hey, good morning. My name is Joe, and this is my Craftsmaster dice shooting journey. Let's make it yours as well. Today, we're going to go through our last yellow belt session, and this is the last one that is on video. I will be going through probably 2 or 3 more sessions over the next couple of days, which will be off video. So make sure that you continue your training off when I'm not doing my live streams. But anyhow, let's get started here, guys. We'll start off with George's Corner. And George goes, let's start making things constant. So the first thing he talks about at making things constant at the table is your posture. So he says your posture should be consistent when you pick up the dice and consistent when you throw the dice. These are 2 different postures. He says that picking up the dice for the grip, your hand was not designed to pick up the dice in an aligned manner, as your fingers are different length, with your middle finger being prominently longer than your index and ring finger. So your pickup posture should accommodate this by having your body face away from your landing zone to pick up the dice in a comfortable way, and your fingers correctly align for the pickup of the dice in a straight manner. Once you pick up the dice, you're going to go to your tossing posture. In your tossing posture, we're going to cover a little bit more in detail during our next video, and during the beginning of our orange belt level. So today we're going to mix things up a little bit. I'm going to assume that you guys have already done your stretching. I'm assuming that you're getting your blood flowing, your dexterity going, your movement of your fingers, your hands, your wrists, your shoulders, your legs, all that type of stuff. So we're going to work a little bit on our getting into our dice grips here. And we're going to go through a couple of different exercises and make sure that if you want, you can rewind this and make sure that you get them down. But what we're going to do is we're just going to do some simple drills to get our movement of the dice in. So first drill we're going to do is just rotating the dice back, using our thumb just to flip the dice back and forth. And then we'll go the opposite direction. And why we're doing this drill is so that we can get comfortable moving the dice around here, guys. Because one of the skill sets that we want to work on, one of the things that you want to do in order to get better at your dice influence and make things more constant is getting used to moving the dice and setting the dice. So what I'll do is dice are handed me, I'll flip it around, and that way I can find the number. So the first drill is going back. Second one will be going forward. Next one will be flipping it towards you. And the last one will be flipping it back to the left. So that way we have forward, we have backwards, we have right, and we have left. So that's one drill that you could do for rotating the dice. The other one was just spinning the dice around. So you are rotating that using your index finger and your thumb to rotate it to the left. You can also do the same thing rotating to the right. You can also, if you feel comfortable, use your middle finger doing that. Everybody's slightly different how they do this, but you need to find what's comfortable for you, but you need to practice these drills. Another one you can do is using your index finger and your middle finger along with your thumb. Okay. So them are some different drills that you can do to help manipulate the dice. So you'll always see me do a lot of these. This is the next drill we can do is we can use our index finger and our thumb just to rotate it forward and to rotate it back. Rotate it to the left or right. And that way we're not rolling it along the table. We're actually staying in place here. And all I'm doing is rotating like this. You can also rotate it the opposite direction if you want. You can use your middle finger if you want, if that's comfortable for you. You do, all these different types of things. So when you said that's nice. So let's go back. Let's do 10 dice grips to review our white belt. So we're going to set up the dice, and we're going to rotate and get into your dice grip. One of the things that I always said is that when I'm doing my 3-finger front diagonal, I'm going to try to do this on an angle here so you guys can see it a little bit. I put my pinky and my index finger on the outsides of the dice. So that way I can set my middle finger in. It's a little bit hard to do it on this angle. Set my middle finger in, set my thumb in, so I'm all set. Now what I can do is I can put my fingers in. I use my pinky here to keep pushing the dice in tight. What I notice sometimes is that my middle finger is off and my index finger is on the corner of the dice. So I can use my pinky up here to help bring that index finger in, if that makes any sense. It's just different things. I want you guys over the next couple of days just play around with the dice. Make sure you master that dice set. Make sure you master the manipulating of the dice. Yeah, so you can get to the dice set that you want. And all this is just rotating the dice in all different directions. Just kind of play around with it, make it look like what is it? Remember the game Trouble, where you like this and it would pop up and down? That's kind of what we're doing. We're just kind of, manipulating and playing around with the dice here to get it to where we want. For example, one of my favorite dice sets is a 6-2-6-4, which is your cross sixes set. So I'll just play around with it and I'll get into the 6-2-6-4 and I'll pick my dice set, with what I'm comfortable with, and I'll just kind of get into that. But again, let's get back to the review the white belt level. All we're going to do is we're going to practice our dice sets 10 times. And you're going to get into your shooting position, as George labels it. We'll get more on that in our next video. And our starting position, our shooting position here, guys, is set up where my dice are slightly angled on the line. So if I put it down, it's in line with the angle on that A. And how I came up with that angle is that I went with my dice and I got to where my release point is, and I make sure that it's square to the table. I set it down, and when I set it down, it comes up with that angle, or relatively close to the angle of that A. So let's go through a couple more dice sets here. And one of the things that I do is when I get in my dice set, not only am I looking at the angle of the dice, I'm looking to make sure that the dice are square, the dice are tight together, and if they're not, I either A, put them down, or I use my pinky to push the dice in tight and to get my index finger up where it's appropriate on the dice here. And then I remove the pinky finger. So, a couple more here, guys, and then we'll go on to the next part of the review. For those of you guys, and I'm going to check the chat a little bit, I see there's a couple chats. Make sure that you guys go back in the video. I gave an exercise here at the beginning in order to play around with the dice, in order to manipulate the dice, in order to get your fingers working decent, so when the dice are passed to you, you can get into your dice set as quickly as possible. So some little simple exercises, kind of like dealers will go through their chip exercises, and they'll do, they call them cutting the checks or the chips. They'll call drop checking, stuff like that. But we're going to do that with the dice here, so we can get, used to using the fingers and get comfortable with those dice, and you can kind of play around with it. Let's just see who's here. We got Victor's here right now. CRC is here, Ron. Good morning, guys. How are you guys doing? Yeah, Victor, I do. My favorite set is the cross sixes. Arnell and Alfredo saw me do that a few months back down in Chicago area, and I was doing quite well with that. So at the time was using the all 7 set at times also, but I have since switched away from that a little bit. And so we got our drop tests. Again, drop tests in the beginning, we're just doing it right here at the table, just release it with the thumb. We switched it as of yesterday to going up to your release point and doing your drop test there. So let's go through setting the dice, going, getting ready, coming up, practice your drop right there, and you're dropping with the thumb, not with the fingers. So in other words, the thumb is releasing the dice from going. So set it here, throw in as if you're going to get to your release point and release that thumb. And that last one was not what I wanted, because I released with my fingers rather than my thumb. And I find that when I throw now, my throws are going to be more consistent. They're going to be more uniform. They're going to be actually what I'm looking for in the rotation of the dice, keeping the dice tighter together, keeping them at the same height level when I release with that thumb. And I'm not actually pushing the dice, because if you're not releasing that thumb, the thumb continues through the motion and you have that pushing or that splitting of the dice tight motion. So let's pull the dice in here. We have our dice setting really quick. And again, guys, this is the last session of the yellow belt. I'm going to do a couple more sessions off video over the next couple of days so I can finish my yellow belt out. Remember that the yellow belt is a minimum of 10 sections long. It's however you need it to make it. So if you need to go longer than 10 sessions, guys, to get everything done, you feel comfortable with everything, by all means do so. This program, the level up program, is set up so that way you guys can go at your own pace. I have a suggested session length, but it's totally 100% up to you guys. So we did our drop test. Now we're going to go through, we're going to do our dice setting really quick. Again, the 3 dice sets that we have at the yellow belt level is the 1, 2, 2, 3. We have the 5, 4, 2, 3, and then the 5, 4, 5, 4. So let's go through the 1, 2, 2, 3 dice set. And again, we're just going to go and try to get them as fast as we can so that way you can get used to doing this and make this a constant rather than keeping it a variable. 1, 2, 2, 3, keep on repeating that in your mind. And it will hopefully help you a little bit more, get into it a little bit faster. Again, remember that the opposite sides of the dice add up to 7. So if you look at the dice, I have a 2 on top, the opposite side should be a 5, and there it is. I have a 1 on top, the opposite side should be a 6, and there it is. That might help you with finding your dice set. 1, 2, 2, 3. And again, this is where those little drills that I went through in the beginning of today's sessions come in handy. So 1, 2, 2, 3, and we have our 5, 4, 2, 3, which is our all 7 set. And hopefully over the weekend here, guys, I will be going through and making the orange belt video. And I will hopefully have it up and going next week sometime. We're going to probably get into our live stream for the orange belt level, 1 or 2 or 3 of them before we actually get the orange belt video out. So keep in mind that, when we're going through the live streams, I'm breaking those belts down into smaller steps and more manageable steps for you guys to practice. But the actual orange belt video will be a complete video and everything in its entirety together. Just because I put the orange belt video out, it does not mean I want you guys to stop watching my live streams. I do enjoy watching everybody coming in the mornings. Good morning, Arnell. I see that you're here. I haven't seen you here for a while. So, like I said, once I get the orange belt video out, doesn't mean I want you to stop watching live streams, guys. You need to come back and keep this your morning dice training. You're training consistently every single morning to go through and get your practice in. We'll switch over to barrel dice again. I get comments in the live streams here. A lot of people saying, you're using barrel dice? Well, yeah, I'm using barrel dice. It's a good warm-up tool. It's checking your throw to make sure that it's going in a straight pattern, that you're staying on axis. And, in the white belt level, or in the yellow level here, we're starting off with that barrel dice just to verify that you're doing everything the way you need to do it. But as we get further in, we're going to be using the barrel dice a little bit less, because you know where your dice are flying, how they're going through the air. And we're going to be training in future belt level our eyes to actually watch the dice and see, which each dice is doing. So we're going to be watching and training to see what the right dice does, what the left dice does. So that way we can actually go through and analyze the results of the dice and make changes with our dice sets. And that's one of the things that a lot of people are interested in, and we will get to that eventually. But set up into your throw, and what we're doing is we're concentrating on throwing the barrel dice so they do not wobble, they have a nice backspin. We're focusing on that release, and we're releasing with our thumb, not with the fingers, so that thumb drops out and the dice continue to roll off the tips of the fingers down to the opposite end of the table. Let's go through one more here and we'll switch to the regular dice. And we got Mike gave a $10 super chat. Thank you, Mike. Good morning, by the way. So thank you for the super chat. By the way, I went through yesterday and I talked about super chats, super thanks, super stickers. Guys, you're not required to do that. I do appreciate it if you do it. All the money that I make off my videos here are going to go to equipment. I'm starting out with audio equipment. This hopefully on Sunday, in a couple of days here, I will be getting some new mic, so it will not sound as tinny or as breaking up like it has been. So that's in the process. I also have a couple projects that are coming up, and I'll be using that money towards those projects and the videos that I make. So up to you guys, not required, but I very greatly appreciate it. I know that yesterday, Craig from Old Bay Craft gave me a super thanks, our super chat. Navaldo gave me a huge super chat yesterday. Very much appreciated. Yeah, let's move on, guys. And our next is going to be working with just a regular dice. I don't care what the dice set is right now. We're not really worried about the landing zone right now. All we're worried about is getting into our grip and throwing it down on the table and releasing with that thumb and making sure that they're as tight as they can be in the air together. And they're doing the same revolutions. They're both rotating at the same rate. And then also we're going to try to get them so they land flat at the end of the table, so that way they'll bounce up and roll into the back wall. Again, the landing zone, that will be coming up in a future belt level where we're really going to be concentrating on that landing zone and really narrowing it down and looking for options once we get our optimal landing zone. But right now we are just basically looking at keeping those dice going down the table, sticking together as tight as they can, rotate at the same revolutions, and landing hopefully flat. I don't know on my videos here if you can actually hear the dice landing, because my microphone is not as good as it should be, but a good dice landing, you're going to hear a thump at the end of the table. You're going to hear them hit and kind of slap the table if they're landing when it's in square. So get in your dice set, go down, get to your release point, release that thumb, and let the dice go through the air. And we're going to do just this part here like this. You're going to do 10 or 15 times. We're not going to do that many today. We're just going to do a few more. and then we'll move on to the next portion of the yellow belt. That one looked actually pretty nice. It wasn't quite as high as what I had hoped for, but they were flying uniform, they were flying even, they were rotating the same. They landed right where my landing zone is. So when I'm setting up here, I'm looking straight down this line right here. And I am trying to set it up so I can see where that alligator bump is going to be on the end of the table. And that's what I'm actually aiming towards. So that way I know that I'm throwing them straight down the table. Some people watch the line and that's all they do. I actually focus on that alligator bump, kind of like when you're a kid. And I guess not even a kid, even as an adult, and you're riding a bicycle. Let's say you're riding a mountain bike and you're going off road and you see a bump. Put on your Joe, line up your dice so they are straight with the letter P on the pass. What I do or know is, and if you look back at some of the videos, my dice are actually crooked on purpose, because what I'm doing is when I'm coming up, my release point is right up here, and it's square at my release point. So if I drop my dice down, my dice actually have a starting point of a slight angle. So hopefully that's kind of what you're talking about there. And so what I do is I actually start with an angle on it. And Alfredo made a comment on this also, and I did some Discord chat with him back and forth. And his analogy was kind of like golf, where it doesn't kind of matter where you start with, it's where your swing ends up with in the result of the ball. So what happens is I start at a slight angle here, and when I come up, my wrist naturally rotates, and it actually straightens the dice out. So it's square when it releases here. And that way they go straight down towards the landing point that I have. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. And I know that's different than what most people teach. Most people will teach exactly what Arnaud made a comment on. He says, line them up with the P, with the line on the P here, so that way they're straight. Now, I don't know if the 3-finger front grip, the par grip, actually does, yeah, that would probably make sense if you're using that grip right there, or no, if you're using the par grip, because then you can go through and it lines up square. But with that 3-finger front diagonal, I actually use a slight angle on there. And that's something that you guys are going to have to go through and experiment with. And I kind of show you guys in the future, in some of my past videos, how I came up with that and why I came up with that angle. You know, so if you're set up here and your dice are square in the air, set it down and see if there's an angle. You know, if I'm in that 3-finger par grip, you know, I'm released like that. If I set it down, they are more straight. I still do have a slight angle, not as steep of one as I do with that 3-finger front diagonal. So something to consider, something to look at, guys. But anyhow, moving on with the dice grips here and the dice throwing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go into that base set, our 5-4-5-4 dice set, which is the hard way set. And now when we throw it down the table, we're going to try to get it down the table and look at the results and try not to have a 6 or a 1 showing on the top of the dice. And that means, if we can do that, that means that we're throwing it down or we're staying on axis and the dice are keeping on axis. In future levels, we're going to go through and we'll analyze if we're not staying on axis, why that's actually occurring. Right here, the 5-3-8. So that one did stay on axis. So we have 5-4-5-4. And we're going to go through 10, 15, 20 times of this when you do your training, your practicing. That one, the dice did cross. The right die stayed on axis. The left one went off of axis and went to the right. So the left dice went to the right. So what that tells me is that the dice actually landed on its left corner and it rolled a little bit to the right. I did notice also on that one that it did not roll that fast. So that means that the energy has dissipated quite a bit on the throwdown. Now we're going to be working on in the orange belt, working on trying to dissipate that energy as the dice land at the end of the table. And that was a terrible one because we have a 6-1 on that one. And a lot of that energy is going to be dissipated by the height of the throw. And that's what we're going to be working on in the orange belt is working on the height of our throws. How high should we be getting those dice? Some people throw them down low and they skip them almost along the bottom. Some people throw them in a huge arc. In my research, I found that there's certain height levels that at its apex or the middle of the throw, the height of the throw, it's going to come down and you want to get to a certain height level. That's 6, 4, 2, 6. Say on axis at that time. One of them single pitched, one of them double pitched. But anyhow, we'll be working on that on the height of our throw in the orange belt level. We're going to try to get that down so that way, when we're actually throwing out, it's actually pretty decent throw, even though both imploded or exploded, depending on which way you look at it. 6-1 together. But anyhow. Guys, thanks for following along here. I know that the videos get to be long, they get to be repetitious. But again, this is our morning dice training. This is our way of going through and making sure we get the repetitions in to throw in the dice. But I hope everybody has a great weekend. I hope that you guys continue to do your training up on your own over the next couple of days. And in our next video, we'll be going to the orange belt level. Again, thanks for following along, guys. Hey, my name is Joe, and this is my Craftsmaster dice shooting journey. Let's make it yours too.